Should we be nervous that we don't know the identity of the founder?
No, I don't think we should be nervous. We should be joyful, because for Bitcoin to work, it needs to be money of the people. It needs to be not controlled by any individual. It needs to be not under the thumb of a founder or a corporation or one strong holder. The most important thing Satoshi did was he created this gift. He gave it to the world. I assume a he. Some people think she. Some people think it's multiple people. But Satoshi gave this gift to the world and disappeared. And Satoshi mined about 1 million coins getting it started, but those coins never moved. Never. They've never been moved. Satoshi's never appeared again. And then the network was in essence a community development all around the world for the next decade, and it's simply grown from $1 million in the bank to 10 million to 100 million to 1 billion to 10 billion to 100 billion. In March of our second quarter of 2020, it was about $180 billion in this network, and that's where I got involved. I was late, but when I got involved, what I saw was an engineered monetary asset, a digital gold, if you will, sitting on an open big tech monetary network. And I said, this is an economic imperative because this solves the problem of inflation for a corporation with lots of cash. I had a lot of cash, and I thought I was going to lose all of it if I didn't invest it in something. And I said, it is also a moral imperative. This is a technology to give property rights to 8 billion people on the planet that don't have property rights. Right? Bitcoin is the highest form of property the human race has ever invented, and I'll explain why in a second. There's 2 billion people that don't have a bank, right? You can give everybody on the planet a bank and property rights that cannot be corrupted and cannot be inflated and confiscated. You can give it to them for the price of a free download on Android. If you got a $50 phone and you can download some software, you can have your own bank, your own property rights, your own economic freedom and economic empowerment. So it's a moral imperative. And then finally, it's a technical imperative. You're talking about the digital transformation of everything else. The digital transformation of property, of gold, of banks, the digital transformation of war, the digital transformation of government, of security. It's a deep idea, but in essence, if the economy's got $500 trillion worth of property and corporations and stuff in it, well, digital property as capital, as money, is worth that amount. It's worth half of everything, right? And so we never figured out how to digitally transform money or digitally transform capital. We did digitally transform photos and videos and education and books and relationships and communications.
Right.
And you know, the secret to success of Google and Amazon and Apple and Facebook is the digital transformation of entertainment and education and communications. But think about what it means to digitally transform $10 trillion of gold or $100 trillion of property or $100 trillion of currency. So these engineers, they wanted to solve that problem. And of course, there's so many big ideas. One is, it was engineered to be a digital gold with none of gold's defects. 21 million coins, but you can't make any more. The problem with gold is gold miners inflate the gold supply, right, and gold bankers inflate the gold paper supply. They dump gold derivatives on the market. With every other asset on Earth, anything else you can own, houses, gold, silver, commodities, stocks, bonds, when the price goes up, the supply increases. If I increase the price of any stock by a factor of 10, the company issues more stock.
Of course.
If I buy all the bonds, all the municipal bonds, the price of bonds go up, people issue more bonds. Right? If I drive up the price of gold by a factor of 10, people print more gold or mine more gold. Bitcoin's the only thing in the world that's inelastic to price. If the price of Bitcoin triples, you can't make any more. If the price goes up by a factor of a million, you can't make any more. Now, so Tucker, let me just give you one more engineering insight. In engineering, there's something called conservation of energy
Yes.
And the whole point of conservation of energy is energy can either be made or destroyed. There has to be conservation of it. The mathematical metaphor, the mathematical analogy to that is proper math. 10 plus 10 equals 20. 2 plus 2 equals 4. If 10 plus 10 ever starts equaling 18, you got a problem.
Yeah.
If you have a bathtub and there's a leak, if you have a swimming pool with a leak, if I have an electric system with a short circuit, if I have a leak in my engineering system, nothing works. Nothing in the world of ocean engineering, aeronautical engineering, electrical engineering, nothing works lest you respect conservation of energy. The problem with inflation is inflation does not respect conservation of energy. I've got a leak in the system. I've designed a currency which is not conservative. So properly understood, if you said, I want a conservative money supply, a conservative money supply would be there's $10 billion in the economy and nobody prints anymore.
Right.
And that's the Austrian economic sound money principle. Bitcoin is a conservative monetary system. It's the first system that respects the laws of thermodynamics and the laws of physics and the laws of math, which means it is true and pure, right? It has integrity. If you have integrity, if you have something which is true and pure and you have durability, then you can build a family around it, a life around it, a company around it, or civilization around it. Steel is concentrated energy in metallic form. You ever walk in a steel plant and you look at the energy going into steel refining? Yeah. It's concentrated energy. The history of the human race is the civilization that channels energy most effectively always wins. Steel trumps iron. Iron trumps bronze. Bronze trumps rocks. Bows and arrows trump the guy with the spear. The guy with the spear beats the guy with the knife. It's always a matter. If you have air power, you beat land power. Sea power beats the army, and nuclear power trumps everybody. And so, if I have steel, I have concentrated metallic energy. I can create a skyscraper punched up 100 stories in New York. How long will it last? 100 years. How long will a steel ship last? Longer than you will last, as long as it doesn't corrode. Wooden ships? Not so much. Wooden ships rot, right? You want to build a building and punch it up against gravity and hold it 100 years. You need concentrated energy. Your money's not going to last 100 years. How do I preserve my property, which is economic energy, which is capital, which is money? How do I preserve that? I need something harder, right? More durable. I need a steel. I need an economic steel. Steel is concentrated metallic energy. Bitcoin is concentrated digital energy. It's energy in digital form. It's vacuum-packed food. It's something sitting in orbit, right? Right? I eliminated the friction on energy. What's the half-life of energy? If I take a megawatt of power and I sell it at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, I have about $1 million. Okay, I'll give you $1 million of electricity. How long can you hold it in a battery? You lose 2% a month. You can't hold it very long. You're going to lose 24% depletion rate in a battery of electricity. How do you send $1 million of electricity from New York to Tokyo? You can't. You can send electricity 500 miles over a power line, you'll lose 6%. Send it 10 times, you'll lose 60%. It doesn't move. Convert that energy, that electricity, into digital energy, a la Bitcoin. You upgrade it. If you were to convert a megawatt of power via a Bitcoin miner into Bitcoin, you'd have about $5 million worth of Bitcoin. You can hold it forever. You can send it to Tokyo for a nickel. Okay? You can put it in a trust fund, right? Bitcoin's going up 170% a year for a decade. The S&P 500 index is going up 14% a year on average for a decade. Gold is flat. It's not going anywhere. It's getting demonetized. It's a dead rock in a basement. It's not fast enough. You can't put gold on an iPhone. Gold's getting depleted, inflated, and manipulated away by the bankers and the miners. So Bitcoin is simply pure economic energy. These engineers, Satoshi and all of Satoshi's compatriots, what they did is created an engineered monetary asset on an open, permissionless network that anybody could participate in. Any country, any company, any individual. You don't need a bank. You don't need to ask permission, right? It is the ultimate egalitarian system. If you want to give property rights to everybody in Africa and South America, even in the face of a hostile regime, you can do it with a $50 Android phone and a simple download. So what does it mean to not have property rights and to not have a strong currency? It's like being a type 1 diabetic. If you're type 1 diabetic, you can't form insulin. Insulin converts excess nutritional energy into fat. Fat is an organic battery. Fat will keep you alive 90 days without food. If you can't form fat, you can eat continuously nonstop and you will starve to death. So diabetes, before insulin was invented, was a death sentence. If you live in a country with a collapsed currency, you're an economic diabetic.